Aris, at this past Saturday, we saw the return of Conor Benn. Now, he went in there against Peter Dobson. Didn't really think it was a stellar performance, to be honest with you. Ben showed his athleticism. He showed his speed. He definitely didn't show his punching power against the guy who was very limited. With a very limited welterweight with Peter Dobson, very slow. Didn't There was nothing really about Dobson that I looked at and thought, okay, there's something I can work with. There is literally nothing. It's a guy who, if you took, we'll say, like the Josh Kellys, the Paddy Donovans of the world, and some would argue that what maybe Josh Kelly is, but maybe not Paddy Donovan, he's still in the learning phase, but they would be kind of on par or maybe a bit below, a bit above, depending on who you think of, Conor Benn. And I would pick both of them to comfortably beat this Peter Dobson guy. But it's got people talking about Conor Benn nonetheless. That's the interesting thing. Eddie Hearn is mentioning names. Conor Benn is mentioning names. At the end of the day, whether you like him or not, there's other fighters like Errol Spence, Tank Davis, Adrian Broner, people like that who are now mentioning the name Conor Benn. Now, I would argue that many of them are mentioning that name because they see him as someone who probably could draw some money in, or at the very least get eyes on the fight. And they also probably see him as an easy touch. More likely. Now, of the names I've heard floating around, and obviously we've seen some DMs between him and Adrian Broner. Personally, for me, if I was looking to match Conor Benn and kind of forget about the last year and a half where you've been trying to do the Eubank Jr. fight and you want to get him back on that path towards a potential world title because he's not ready for it now. People say, oh, he could. No. He couldn't hang with Crawford or Boots now. No way. Not a hope. Not a prayer. But if you want to try and build him, now he might not be good enough to ever get to that level. But if you want to build him, I would say, Adrian Broner would be just fine, because if you look at when Conor Benn was fighting the likes of Chris Algieri, Chris Van Heerden, people like that, I didn't really have that much of an issue with him fighting those guys. Yes, they were over the hill, they'd seen better days, and, they were at the back end of their career. I didn't necessarily mind that from a matchmaking point of view. It was actually quite good. What I didn't like was Eddie Hearn going on camera and saying Benn is in there with top 10, top 15 welterweights, because that's clearly not true. Maybe a decade ago, yeah, you could say Chris Algieri would have been certainly in the top 10 of at least 140, because he was mainly a 140 pounder, that was his best weight. But to say it in 2021 that he's a top 10, top 15 welterweight is just a lie. It just is, right? The same with Chris Van Heerden was, someone Errol Spence fought on the come up, in 2015, I think it was. So to sell those guys as viable opponents in a sense of they're dangerous, no. But to have them as fights for learning, which is what Conor Benn has. He had the obviously, it was Adrian, I can't remember his last name. He fought Adrian Broner, I can't remember his last name. But he had fought him, he's fought Samuel Vargas, stopped him in a round, which was a good win to be fair, because Vargas only about 2 years or so prior had gone the distance and actually dropped Amir Khan. So they were going on a good path with him. He was fighting guys he was supposed to beat, and he was doing it in good fashion. Some would argue there was a reason for that. We won't get into that. But they deviated from that and have been trying to do this Eubank Jr. fight ever since. Now, that to me is a bit of a strange one because, what's it? It is really a strange, you're going up to weight divisions to fight Eubank. And what happens if you win? You beat a middleweight, fair enough. But are you going to campaign at middleweight? You're going to go back. Well, for me, it was just a money fight. And it was kind of weird because it's Benn's not doing too bad necessarily in terms of the guys he's beaten. It's stepping up gradually. There's the likes of Avanesian, who I think at this stage now, I'd probably make Benn favourite over him. Certainly if you were talking about Avanesian pre-Crawford, I would have said probably the Avanesian who beat Josh Kelly. Yeah, Benn would really struggle to beat him. Really struggle. But now, I'd say probably he's more beatable now than he's ever been. Avanesian was never a world beater. He was a solid fringe world level fighter. He was significantly better than the guys at European level. But he never was going to, hit it on the world stage. We've seen that several times. I think he lost to Lamont Peterson, who was way over the hill by the time they fought. So he was never going to hang at world level, but he would have been a good yardstick. I think now he's kind of even dropped down. Maybe he is European still, maybe. Thereabouts. But Broner and the likes of Avanesian, now I think will be good fights for Conor Benn to see where he's at in his career. He's still quite young. He's only about 26 26, 27 thereabouts. So he's still youthful enough. And I like what I see with the athleticism. The punching power, questionable, certainly. But certainly speed, athleticism is definitely there. Versatility in terms of switching things up. I found he was very one-dimensional at times with his attacks, certainly, in that fight with Peter Dobson. And you're going to need to be a bit more versatile if you're going through the levels. Those two names, Broner and Avanesian, may be the two fights I'd be looking for him. He's on about Devin Haney. He's on about Tank Davis. I wouldn't. I know Tank Davis will be coming up from lightweight. He has fought, yes, at 140, but he is fundamentally a lightweight and he will be going up to 147. Tank Davis is, I know some people don't like him, and there are a lot of people out there who genuinely don't like Tank Davis, but don't let that cloud what you see. He is a phenomenal fighter. He really, truly is. He's fantastic. That speed, that power, I don't see Conor Benn having much chance in there. And as for Devin Haney, Conor Benn was 170 pounds thereabouts on fight night. Devin Haney's not far off that. You may actually see Benn fight Haney, and bear in mind Haney coming from lightweight to 140 to 147. There probably wouldn't be much of a weight discrepancy from the naked eye. They probably look fairly similar on fight night because Haney is massive. Haney at 140, I'm liking that Subriel Mateus is meant to be fighting on his own show coming up, which kind of makes me think, could we possibly see that? But if we don't, in the meantime, if he goes to 147 and he fights Conor Benn, it'll be a fairly run of the mill. Like Devin Haney would, you see, here's the thing, when you look at that Dobson fight and you see the counters Dobson, who's very crude, was able to land, you're like, damn, Devin Haney wouldn't be able to miss with those counters. I don't think he would anyway. So when it comes to world level, I think Benn he may never be at that level. It's going to be interesting to see what Eddie Hearn does, because in a way, I know a lot of people don't like Conor Benn, and I get that. But people are mentioning his name. And Eddie Hearn has two choices. Does he go back, look at 2021 and go back to bringing Conor Benn along the way he was, whether it be in the States? We'll see what happens with this UCAD situation in the UK. Does he go that way? Or, in some ways you could say he was looking to cash him out against Eubank. Maybe he still is. Would he cash him out against a Devin Haney? Would he try and do it against a Tank Davis? No real mention of Boots Ennis, which, if you're saying you want to be amongst the top welterweights, Boots Ennis has a title. And, surely that would be a fight you could make. At the end of the day, if Eddie Hearn is willing to do Eubank versus, what was his name, Conor Benn, I think there was name just slipped my mind, Conor Benn, then he should be willing to do Boots. I don't see how, you can be happy to say, right, let's try and fight a middleweight, but fight a world champion in your respective weight division. It's not even that they're not trying to do it, there's just no mention of him. Boots is a champion. He has that title. And, I've heard other names like Kell Brook. I don't want to see Benn fight Kell Brook. I don't want to see Eubank fight Kell Brook. I want to see Kell Brook stay retired. That's what I want to see. Because Kell Brook left on a high, beating Amir Khan, ending that rivalry. Very few get to leave that way. Just leave it. Just leave it like that. It's been 2 years now, nearly 2 years. He's not have got any better. And that will be 2 fights in 4 years. There you go. So please no Kell Brook. Broner is with Don King now. What options does he have? None. Very few. He signed with Don King, for God's sakes. So that's just a little quick video on Conor Benn. Whether you love him or hate him, people still talk about him. People will be trying to make fights with him. Many would be trying to make fights because they see this as like taking candy from a baby. Certainly off the back of that Peter Dobson fight, and I can 100% get that. It, in my opinion, was not a good performance by Conor Benn. Certainly not. Let's see. It's going to be interesting to see what happens moving forward with him. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed it, people. Smash the like button if you could, and subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. Yeah, I will be... the background won't be the same for the next couple of days. I am going to be going to Liam Williams' Hamza Shearers for the coming days. be at the press conference, the weigh-in, and fight night. Looking forward to all that. Looking forward. Hopefully I get Frank Warren. I'd love to get an interview with Frank Warren. I would love that. I would flip it. It'd probably be the only interview I'd ever get with him. But let's see. Who knows? But I will leave you with that, people. I hope you have a good time. Hope you enjoy the video. Smash the like button if you could. I will still get some videos out when I'm over there amongst the interviews and amongst other things. If there's any news breaking, just a different background, but same as always. Peace.